So I've been living in Finland for about 4 years now. And, I've tried to document my time living here, and it's mostly been positive. I absolutely love this country. I think the people are awesome. I just, in general, I think this is just a good place to be. But I must say, things seem to have changed quite a bit, at least politically. The one thing I know about Finland from when I first moved here is people weren't very keen to talk about politics very often. Now it seems like that has changed a little bit. People are a lot more, can I say, divided in terms of what they think, which is quite surprising because at least as an outsider, I always viewed Finland as, I guess, this place that was all right with most of the policies that were being implemented, as long as things like healthcare and social security were sorted out. I felt like most people didn't really think about it. And I think that's mostly because I wasn't able to speak Finnish. So perhaps I was left out of the loop in some of those areas. But more recently, things have just escalated in a way. And as an outsider looking in, it's quite interesting because I can see the different perspectives. I can see why some people didn't like the previous government, which is the Sanna Marin's party, which is the SDP. It's more left wing, right? So that's reflected in their policies and the things that they're trying to push for. I'm not even quite sure how the politics work here in Finland. I just understand a few basic things, right? But one thing I do know is that the SDP was really pro-immigration, pro-spending on welfare and that sort of stuff. And I guess that had an impact on the economy, inflation going up and that sort of thing. But Sanna Marin herself as a person, I think, was still quite popular. In the recent elections, the SDP lost to the National Coalition Party. I think it's called Kokoomus, if I'm not mistaken. After that, things have been really a bit shaky, both in terms of what people think about the new party and the policies that they are wanting to put into effect. And this has, I feel like it's shaken the whole country, because it seems like people do have an issue with immigration, not just here in Finland, but abroad, like especially in a lot of European countries. Uncontrolled immigration is not a good thing. And I think most people would admit that. And I think some people just wanted a bit more, I guess, a little bit more control in that aspect of it. And this is where politics kind of starts getting weird, because people have different opinions of what is right and wrong in the broader sense of the word, right? So you have certain people who think that it's right and good to allow a bunch of asylum seekers to come to a country because they believe it's moral. And then you have another side of people who are like, wait, hang on, you're bringing a bunch of these people in unvetted and they are causing harm, for example. Then you have these two fighting forces online. One side calling another side racist because they don't want just a whole bunch of immigrants coming in. And then you have another side calling the other side wanting open borders. When you view it like that, I feel like it just divides people and there's no room for actual conversation, no room for nuance. It's just shouting at each other online. As for me as an immigrant here in Finland, I do understand that, especially for a country like Finland that has been like pretty homogenous for its entire existence, I can imagine for some people seeing a lot of different views, different religions, and that can be really hard. And I personally don't think it's racist to have some reservations about that. If you are enjoying this, please consider subscribing and giving me a like. I really appreciate it. Where I think the issue comes in is the new government, the National Coalition Party, or Kokoomus. I guess some of the policies they want to implement in regards to immigration really affect the immigrants here who are actually, adding to the economy, who are paying taxes and who are abiding by the laws, those are the type of people you want here, because no country can survive without some sort of immigration, especially like Finland that has like a very aging population, and there are a lot of specialists that come from all over the world to work here. And I guess some of these still need to be voted on, but they have things like, if you move here for work and you've got like a work contract, right? And you've been working for a couple of years, something happens to your company and you're out of work. And let's say you're a specialist. If you are unable to get yourself a job within 3 months, you have to leave the country. I mean, how do you put faith in that? How do you bring your whole family here only to find that you might need to leave? Even after working for so long, you don't get a job immediately, then you have to leave. Even if you have been paying taxes and all these things. A lot of us do not know what it's like to be an asylum seeker when you need a better life for your family and that sort of stuff. But the reality still stands that if you come here, you are going to need to add to the economy in some sort of way to be a force for good. If on the news it's being shown that people who are coming here are causing trouble or committing crimes, it doesn't look good. And as bad as it sounds, yes, if I am a native here and I see people coming from another country doing bad stuff, I'm going to feel some way about that. I do get that. And I do get that people need, that the government needs to reform how immigration works. But I think you don't need to throw the baby with the bathwater. That's the expression. And then the thing that just divides people a whole lot more is this thing with Riikka Purra. She's the deputy prime minister, if I'm not mistaken. The left-leaning people are pointing their fingers to the new government, calling them racist because they feel that their immigration policies are motivated by race in some sort of way. Whether that's true or not is a completely different discussion, but I think there's a lot of nuance there. But where the issue comes in, I think where the issue comes in is someone like Riikka Purra. Old texts of hers have been found, things that she's said in the past that do have an unfavorable flavor to them. And I know the media does put some things and some quotes out of context, but there's still a lot out there that is not put out of context, and she said what she said, and it just sounds bad, it looks bad, and it makes the people on the left point fingers at that and be like, you see, we told you. And that's not the only kind of weird stuff that has been happening with the new government, which is all frustrating for people who perhaps simply didn't like the policies of the previous government. They just want something else. They feel like Finland needs to be a lot more stricter, bring in people who add to the economy. And I can imagine those people who just want that, seeing people on the left pointing fingers at them, might also get really frustrated because they're like, yo, why does everything have to be about race? So it's really confusing, and it's really kind of a mixed bag. But this whole Riikka Purra thing has just thrown a spanner in the works because, yes, I'm a total believer in, I do not think it's good for society to always be looking far back into someone's past, pointing fingers at something and being like, yo, you said this 10, 15, 20 years ago. In general, I completely agree with that. But I must say, when you are running for office, when you are wanting to be a politician, when you are wanting to be in a position of power where you are leading people, it stands to reason that people are going to look into your past and they are going to find some things that you have said. And I just think that it was bad on her part to not come out straight out the gate, admit the things that have been said and apologize for them frankly, and just be like, yes, this was bad. I don't agree with these things, because some of the things are bad. Like, she says the N-word and that sort of stuff. And whatever you might think about that, it just does not look good. And if your job is to lead people and to bring people together, although it's a small population, you do have people like black people, people of mixed color, people married to people of different colors here in Finland. So you also have to represent them. And if they see you calling people words like that, it just comes across as really bad, you know. I guess another thing that I've noticed is how polarized things are online. You seemingly cannot argue in the middle. You have to be leaning far left or far right. And that can be really frustrating, because this is the time where people need to be talking more and being more open. And the people on the right, or people, I'll say people who support the new government because they believe that the previous government's policies aren't good, I feel like those people should not defend comments from someone like Riikka Purra. You can say, I do not agree with what she said, I do not like what she said, while still supporting the different policies. And yes, I can understand people on the left when someone defends someone like Riikka Purra for saying the N-word and all these sort of things, and saying it's 10 years ago. And by the way, she was my age then. She was like 30 or 31 or something, and she was well educated, so she knew what she knew what she was saying. So I don't think it's worth defending, and I don't understand why we live in a world where people want to defend things like that. It sounds so silly, in my opinion. Yeah, and the people on the left, I do not think it is a good strategy to just call other people racist. I think that's the worst way to get people into conversations. Unless your argument is that everyone who didn't vote for the SDP is somehow racist or bigot, there needs to be some reason why people voted for someone else. And bearing in mind, I think in general, Finland, the same party does not stay in power like consecutively. Like there's always a new government. If I'm not mistaken, you can fact check me if you want. But there's obviously a reason why people voted for something different. Until people acknowledge that, conversations cannot happen. I'm not very used to seeing Finnish people or so divided in their views. I think something the Finnish president said, it's so weird. I know very little about the Finnish presidency, right? Niinistö. Sauli Niinistö. He said something along the lines of address the immigration issue or racist people will. And it's true. It's like there is an issue with immigration. There is an issue with people coming here and not pulling their weight in certain aspects. It's true. It's objectively true. It's there. You can't ignore it. What the previous government had to do was kind of reassure people that they are going to be bringing in the right sort of people. I think a lot of people understand that immigration does need to happen, but I guess the right kind of immigration, right? People who add to the economy. And as for me, you know, my life still carries on. I've been living here for a bit. I'm working hard. I'm trying to do something useful. And I really believe in this country. I believe in the people. I believe in the world. In the end, we are all human. And I think we do sometimes forget that fact. I'm from South Africa, a country and a people completely alien to the people here. But even when I moved here, although I noticed that Finnish people are a bit odd and weird to me, but they're still human. And I'm pretty sure the pandemic had a part to play in getting people to maybe mistrust the government a bit. Some people lost their livelihoods. Some people didn't like the way the government handled it. Some people did. But I do think that had an impact on the entire world. I recently went to a protest about the new government policies. I just went around and I asked a bunch of people a few questions, and let me see if I can just play it now. Not just immigrants who are working hard and doing their thing, but also Finnish people who didn't think that this was a good move. I'm the one interviewing people here, so let's see. It's really hard trying to find people to actually interview. What's up, guys? So where are you guys from?
Finland. Mexico, Mexico.
Finland.
And I'm from Peru and Costa Rica.
Finland.
Is there anything in specific with the new laws that you're upset about?
It's not really fair because we are paying the same amount of taxes, and I'm personally software developer and have specialist visa here.
Well, I think that they already make it pretty hard for immigrants, and it's already tough enough trying to get used to such a different culture. It's nuts that if you lose your job in 3 months, which is something that could happen for any reason, then you're just like basically losing your work permit and you can be kicked out.
Yeah, well, especially because my husband is from Mexico here, so it's like, and so I've been more into it, and it just seems really unreasonable, like the new requirements, for example, for a permanent residence permit or for a nationality, and like those that you need to earn like a certain amount of money and be working a certain amount of time, like it's just not fair at all.
We live here, we follow the laws.
Well, if you live here, you should like follow the law and respect the law. That's normal, like.
I think from what I understand, if you get made unemployed, you only have 3 months to find another job. That process in Finland, looking for a job can take 6 months. So like, if you imagine you moved here with your family, something happens, and then like you have to find a new job, then you just kicked out the country. I mean, it's like, it's just wrong.
Really interesting. And being an immigrant myself, obviously I could relate to a lot of that. Because if Finland wants to be a place that competes on the international market over the long run and does some incredible things, the truth is, yeah, you will need people to come here who feel safe to come here and who feel comfortable to be able to come here. Most of the sentiment was like, same taxes, same treatment, which I understand. It is very different speaking to people in real life and seeing people respond to things online. I made a video kind of giving my perspective on this and just explaining my view as it being like, I completely understand why certain new laws need to be applied, but it feels kind of not nice that some of those new laws might like really impact me, even though I'm playing my part. But then online, people who don't even know me, don't know anything about what I've done or my viewpoints, who will easily just come online and be like, yeah, you're just an immigrant, you just go back to your country. And it's just like, things like that, it just shows you how different things are online to real life. And how when I have conversations with people in real life, most people are so nuanced and they're able to see both sides of the arguments and that sort of stuff. So yeah, I guess we'll see what happens. You know, I've got a lot of faith in the world. I've got a lot of faith in the people of Finland. I guess I've got a lot to talk about when it comes to this. I think this video is probably long enough for now.